revolution begins. I'm expecting a fight, hoping for a war. We are the Bullet Club. I am the greatest living professional wrestler alive. One by one, they will all follow me. Bada boom, realest guys in the world. How you know? Feed me more.
Ooh, what's that? This place isn't so scary. What was that? Oh, yeah, that was nothing. I'm not scared of anything in here. Oh, wait. What's that sound? Is that Eva Marie's music? No, it can't be. The most dangerous wrestler in the entire world? She'll hurt all of us. No!
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the mat.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Deezer.
Hello and welcome to a very, very delayed Wrestling Max episode 167. And yes, it's past Halloween, but still like the Day of the Dead, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah, and we promise we're not dead here. Yes, we did not appear on our normal time slot on Thursday. We apologize. You know, the technical world is always a funny one. It doesn't always work out the way we want it to, and it didn't. We had some outage issues with the internet, you know, and not only that, you know, we also had some other things going on, like, you know, the Halloween, and that kind of delayed us as well. So we do definitely apologize for not being around for you guys, but we're here now. We want to cover everything. We don't like skipping weeks. We don't do that here. We make sure we do a podcast, even if it's later. That way you can listen to it. And, you know, if you listen on demand, hey, it's new to you, right? So we're going to definitely cover everything. We're going to kind of touch on the Raw after Hell in a Cell, of course. We really didn't get a chance to do that, but we'll briefly go to that. A lot of you guys have already, you know, watched the show and maybe heard a little bit about that. Plus, you know, we have to talk about WWE 2K16. It came out. Sean actually got a chance to play this game in full. He's going to review it for us. He's going to give you the word on if it's worth buying, worth just renting, or what it's worth at all. So don't want to miss that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Plus, guys, hey, we're going to talk NXT. We're going to talk ROH and TNA and a lot of other things, including the all-important financials WWE does. You know, we're going to get to find out the viewership of certain shows, and not only that, you know, how many people are still subscribed to that network. That's also very important. So lots of great things in this show. I'm looking forward to it. But before we get into all the great stuff that we have to talk about today, I do want to go back in time and talk about Halloween. You know, our show was supposed to lead up to Halloween, but now it's already passed. Hey, I guess it's kind of better in a way. We could kind of get into what we did. So I'm going to start with you, Paul. I mean, what did you get a chance to do? I know, unlike, you know, me and Sean, and you don't have any kids to take care of or anything. Did you get a chance to do anything fun?
I was working.
Oh, wow. That's, I guess, not fun, but fun at the same time. I bet you had... I mean, the industry you work in, though, let's be honest. I mean, you've got people that cosplay, I'm sure, all the time anyway, but Halloween must be really cool at that time.
No, I mean, we had a couple people come in dressed up. It was nothing like super spectacular or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, you know, at least you got a chance to, you know, I guess, you know, enjoy some candy hopefully while you worked, but, you know, it is what it is, but, you know.
Made some money. Always a bonus.
Exactly. You know, so, but Sean, I mean, I know your Halloween was probably pretty interesting. I know you had your daughter around.
Mine was not at all. My daughter had a decent one. My mom is not. Gary goes to church, but he's not like totally like against things. So, as Gary will tell you about, he took his daughter trick-or-treating. My mom is one of those that is, Halloween is the devil. And, I told my wife not to fight with her about it, just whatever. I didn't, I had to throw a fit to get her to make her take her to the one at school on Thursday, which was nothing. All it is them going to school and them getting candy. It's nothing. So she went to one of those, and the church does this too, Gary, you do the whole, like, go to church and hang out there instead of trick-or-treating. That's what she did,
Okay.
And she got to watch Inside Out again and do other stuff, whatever. I was working a 9-hour shift, so
you guys were
I
working.
didn't have any fun, but
I'm so sorry.
we got to give the kids candy that came in, but it was a freaking madhouse. People just deciding that it wasn't until like 9 o'clock people started leaving the store so they can go do the Halloween stuff, and it was finally dead, but we still had to stay there until like almost 1 in the morning cleaning up after all the people that were.
Oh, but jeez.
Don't know how to actually take care of things in a store.
Yeah, no respect. No respect. That's Rodney Dangerfield for you, right? I like that. No respect.
No
Yeah.
respect.
But no, you say something that is very true. And if some people are religious, they do the trick or trunk. My church actually did it. I did it early this year, so people could go trick or treating. But I wasn't able to make it. I had to work as well on Saturday, and I wasn't able to get there on time for that. My daughter did miss that, which I was hoping to do both. I hope for trick-or-treating and the church thing, because they get tons of candy at the church thing, plus they get to jump in jump houses, eat, and have fun. But maybe next year. We'll see how that works out. But I hope everybody listening had a great Halloween. I hope it was a lot of fun. If you had kids, I hope you had a great time walking the streets. And if you didn't, I hope you got to have a good time partying and watching scary movies. I watched World War Z again on Halloween night, so that was fun. So... but anyway, well, guys, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We, kind of missed out earlier this week, so let's get into all that is important. And why don't we go ahead and start this thing off like usual and get us some quick hits.
It's time for wrestling news. Quick hits.
Too bad it's after Halloween. We couldn't do just all like, ooh, quick
Yeah. That's why we opted out. Now we're gonna have to go. Now this month, Paul, it's gonna be gobble gobble.
Oh boy!
I think we'll scoot out on that one too.
I can so see Gary doing it anyway.
Yeah. Maybe when we get closer to that Thanksgiving episode. So, but let's start this thing out. Let's talk about Jerry Lawler. His Halloween was not as much fun. It's one of those things where he was having a great time, had a great Halloween, handing out candy to the trick or treaters, but got hungry like all of us. It was a long night. Went and got some pizza, and on the way home, got T-boned, a car accident, and his girlfriend got injured, but he didn't. She was okay though. She made it out, with all of her, everything. Let's just say it that way. Her head's a little mixed up. I was going to say her appendages, but I was thinking maybe I shouldn't go that far, But she was okay. She was, a little banged up, had a concussion. But you never like to hear this, even if it's, people personally. But, when, celebrities like Jerry Lawler get hurt, you kind of think about it. Man, he could have been gone for a second time. So, what do you think about this, guys? Jerry Lawler, he's definitely a trooper. I always think about this, too. As a wrestler, you're used to taking hits and you're used to, falling the right way. You always hear about those kind of things. Do you think he was okay in this because he had some training and he was okay with that impact?
Oh, God, no.
I'm just imagining him tensing up and just being like, I got this, guys.
I think
He's not the Hulk or anything.
Yeah, being in a car accident and taking a bump are two completely different experiences.
It can feel like a car crash, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah, you're right. Paul, you do have the experience. I was in the same car, but
yeah, I just came out 1% titanium. I'm glad they're okay. Really, it was the other guy's fault. He ran the red light, so. they're good, everybody's okay, and that's all good news.
Yeah,
and all that happened to him is he gets a red light ticket, and that's it. So.
But you know what? That's the way it works. I mean, he wasn't drinking or anything else. So, I mean, honestly, it's mainly him having to deal with the insurance company, and that's, pretty...
That's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Itself.
I mean, that's its own punishment in a way, so... but let's get into something more prevalent. I just had to start out with that story because of the fact that it's Halloween tide. Let's get into Kurt Angle, guys. Now, this is interesting because of his age, some of the injuries he's had recently, but Kurt Angle just signed a deal with Bellator. Wow. I didn't see this coming. I know we had talked about it. I know we had heard a few rumblings that he was interested, but him actually signing on the dotted line... Just Paul, I mean, what is he thinking? Do you think this is going to be something that's going to be good, or do you think Kurt Angle's kind of missed his time to do this?
I think he missed his time. Honestly, right out of WWE would have been perfect because after he obviously took the time to heal up and get over all the problems he was going through at the time, but now he's just he's had another neck injury and he's just broken. He's a broken down guy. I don't imagine this will end entirely well for him, but you never know. He could come out and completely surprise us. But as of now, this sounds like a terrible idea.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Sean, I mean, do you think that he's going to have any chance of, maybe getting some victories out of this?
Oh, I mean, he'll have some victories because they'll do just like they do with Lashley, where they're putting some guys in front of him that he's going to beat. So I wouldn't be worried about that. Who knows? We might get the Ken Shamrock, Kurt Angle match.
Oh no, I'm not.
A hell of a long time ago, but
I'm not watching it. Just telling you now.
Yeah, they'll do it just so they can have Lashley Angle for real or something. Just watch that happen, and then they'll say that wasn't rigged either. So, I think my thing is, what if he does well and WWE goes, oh, well, look, he's doing well in MMA. Let's bring him over here.
Mm-hmm.
You think that happens maybe if, let's say, he builds, it's not UFC obviously, but it's still on a TV station and it's still sort of known, and if he can kind of build himself up some way.
Yeah. I mean, I could totally see where you're coming from on it, and I think, WB, when I'm talking about WB, I'm talking about Vince McMahon, of course, and of course, Triple H is looking out too, but I think they've been kind of concerned injury-wise, and, really do they want to use him, but I think you have a point there. If he can deal with that and be successful, maybe he deserves it, but I don't know about you, Paul. I mean, do you think that even gives him a shot at getting back in the WB?
You never know. I think he's already on the WWE's radar. I don't think he needs MMA. He's wanted to do MMA for a very long time. He hasn't made that a secret or anything. So I think this is him just trying to get everything in while he can.
And I don't blame him. So, I mean, you got to do it when you can. And, he can't get any younger. So this is the time. But let's talk about, the fact that TNA, with Kurt Angle doing that, of course, he won't be around for them. They'll be having to move on without him for a little while, and which is kind of normal. He's been here and there as of late for TNA. But, they're dealing with their own things. Once again, they're trying to get through, these hard times, trying to figure out what's going to happen with them. Are they going to have a TV deal in the near future? Are they going to be gone completely off American television and dealing with just the tapings over there and being on TV in the UK and India and markets overseas? But here's the interesting thing. They're going to be still doing tour dates. They're going to go to India once, of course. Like we talked about that last week. They'll be doing the UK stuff. And, of course, they'll still be doing some dates in here in the States. But looking at this, Destination America has had some changes when at the top, and they're reevaluating all their shows. So as they reevaluate all their shows, they have to look at TNA, of course, and ROH both, and consider, do they still want them? So I just want to know what you think that TNA's chances are staying with Destination America, or do you think Destination America has pretty much already written them off, even though they are reevaluating?
We keep saying they're going to, this is it, every time we keep hearing about the contract coming up. I don't see why they should go anywhere if they are the top-rated show. If people are willing to start investing into buying time during their show, which was the main problem, then I don't see why Destination America would get rid of them at this point. So I'm going to say, who the fuck knows anymore?
That needs to be a drop right there.
Yes, I'm gonna find the spot in the show. We're gonna make that.
That's just Paul's answer for just anything. Hey, look. So
Except we'll get the explicit tag pretty quick.
we're definitely getting that. So Paul broke that already, people. That wasn't Sean this time. Paul did that one. So, looking at that, Sean, Paul makes a good point here, and sponsors are the big key here. We've already heard that some sponsors definitely do not want to be on the time slot when TNA or ROH are on, but we have heard that one sponsor specifically came aboard on Destination America because of the wrestling. So, how do you think this all works out? Do you think what Paul's saying is from completely the truth, or do you kind of have a gist of what's going to happen here?
Well, this is so weird with them. Like, they have this new GM that's reevaluating everything. Well, if you're reevaluating everything and you're going to get rid of your 2 highest rated shows, or 2 of them, when the rest of your shows are total crap, then that's on you as a channel. And that's on you as a network, and that's on you as a station, and whoever the hell else is involved with Discovery at this point. I don't know. Then, if you guys decide as a unit that you don't want wrestling, then that's on you, right? If you decide that you're going to do it by ratings, then obviously TNA and ROH have done enough to show that they need to stay. And, that's going to be on those people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why you need to get rid of TNA. It's not hurting you, other than if those advertisers all of a sudden say, okay, look, if you're going to extend them for another year or something, then we're all leaving, then okay, well, then you're kind of screwed. But if they are going to start, but that's one advertiser. I think they would want more than one advertiser that says, we want to specifically be sponsored for the wrestling, before they say, okay, well, this is enough to keep them. I don't know, because, TNA's ratings fluctuate so much. So do ROH's. ROH's almost touched TNA's this week. I think TNA got like 267,000 or something. I don't know, like in that area, the 270,000 range, and ROH got like 227,000 or something, which is a record for them on Destination America.
Yeah,
So,
which is great.
It's great, and it's also great that it happened on a show that wasn't really that great either.
Mm-hmm.
But, and that's what's so weird. Is sometimes they'll have these awesome shows, and you go, okay, everybody had to enjoy this, right? There goes the rating. And then they have these god-awful shows nobody liked. Oh, well, the rating just went, woo-doo. What the hell, man? I don't know. But it's so weird with wrestling, it's like whatever the hell strikes those people at that time. I swear, I think sometimes people are just bored. And they go, let's all in unison turn the wrestling on. I don't know. It's so crazy sometimes.
I think people especially on Ring of Honor, I think they're a day late and a dollar short. I think that they end up, hearing about these great shows, and they say, oh, I'm going to check out, ROH this next week, and then they watch it like, well, that's not as good as people were telling me it was going to be. And then, they keep doing that, possibly. That's the only thing I could think of. But, it's a finicky audience. It really, really is. But you know what? Let's talk about Ring of Honor. Let's talk about the fact that they just signed 2 guys that are big fan favorites. They've been around the indie circuit, and they are going to be really working with the Ring of Honor for the simple fact that, they chose them. And, of course, Ring of Honor, chose them as well. They kind of chose each other in a way. But New Japan had a hand in this too, Paul. The Young Bucks. They're now aboard Ring of Honor full-time, kind of. I'm sure they'll still be doing indie dates here and there, but they've got really their focus on Ring of Honor and what's going to be happening there. And New Japan apparently kind of encouraged this because they thought that maybe those guys were wearing themselves out on the indie circuit, and this is going to be good for them. So what's your thought with, the Young Bucks being a big fixture of Ring of Honor now?
I think this is an insanely smart idea for the Young Bucks. one, they can keep doing most of the indie places that they're in. I still think they get to work PWG out of all this deal too, so they can still hit the big three promotions that they were working without having to worry about all the smaller promotion dates that they've been doing. It's pretty much the next best step you're going to get to signing with WWE. And if WWE was never going to sign them, or if they didn't like maybe what was going to happen to them if they signed WWE, then this is the best way where you can get the Young Bucks and keep the Young Bucks as the Young Bucks. Which I know a lot of people were worried about that happening in our Facebook group if they signed with WWE or something like that. They were going to get watered down or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a big fear. But, I mean, Sean, looking at this, I think, what Paul kind of pointed out here, not only does Ring of Honor succeed from this, but New Japan and PWG and these groups, they're going to have some great talent. Do you think that the Young Bucks should have still kind of held out, maybe went a different route, maybe even tried to get in WWE? How do you think this thing worked out?
They don't have to try. If they went up to WWE and said we want to be in WWE, I think Triple H signs them. I don't think it's. They are the closest thing they're going to get to the Hardy Boys, other than signing the Hardy Boys again, which, again, we keep hearing that's going to happen. Which I don't rule that out either. WrestleMania time comes around, you don't think they want to do a Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys thing, but. Still, I honestly think it's the Young Bucks. So do you think they don't want to have to change a lot of what they do? They're gonna have to stop a lot of what they cannot just constantly do that match and that kind of match in NXT. It doesn't work. They don't do that there. They do some of that. We saw Ciampa and Gargano do one of their patented spots. The whole throwing the guy in the corner and doing the integrated back of his head. That's one of their things that they do in almost every match. But it's just you're not going to see that stuff that you see in ROH and New Japan all the time from them. So, for them, and then also, they might be the Young Bucks and they might not be the Young Bucks. It's just, there's a lot of things that come with NXT that sometimes you get free reign and sometimes you don't. And when it comes to those bigger promotions, there was no way WWE was going to let them do that. So, they were out there too, and it just, to me, I think it's just, it keeps them doing what they were doing without having to really change anything except for what Paul said, and they get to be closer to home more, and that's what they've been saying, that they're getting older and they want to be with their kids more, and don't blame them at all.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm glad to see that that's important to them, and of course, ROH is going to help support that, so that's great. Whereas in WWE, just the workload is ridiculous, and you don't get a chance to have that option most times. So, but let's go ahead and get into one last thing before we move on to the financials and, of course, rapid hits. I want to touch on this topic briefly. The Undertaker has a magazine coming out, and it is basically going to feature his big matches and, of course, all the WrestleMania moments and matches that he's been a part of. So really, it's going to be all in depth about The Undertaker. But here's the thing. They're missing out on a key part, and that is CM Punk. Apparently, WWE has excluded him, and he is not part of this, which is kind of odd because it is, of course, part of the WrestleMania lore of Undertaker. So is 20-1 instead of 21-1, right? So that's kind of interesting. But I just got to get your thoughts on this. Is WWE just being ridiculous? Because to me, that's just silly. Just say the history.
Yeah, it's really no big point in leaving him out other than to just be vindictive. That's what they do. So, and they're well within their right to do that if they don't want to mention it or not. But we can all go on the network, guys, for $9.99 and see, hey, look. He's 21-1,
They still show him on TV as 21-1, so they can contradict themselves all day long there. To me, it's stupid. I wonder if it has to do a little bit with that thing with the royalties and all that other lawsuit, not the one with the doctor, but the other one. And if maybe they just. Perhaps CM Punk would have had to been paid from WWE if he appeared in that magazine, and WWE doesn't want to have to pay CM Punk anymore, I'm pretty sure. And if they didn't have to ever mention CM Punk's name or hear him again, they would be, at least Triple H would be fine. So, it is what it is. It's silly. It's childish. It's all those dumb, adjectives you want to give it. But it's their company. They get to do what they want.
Yeah, that's true. Excuse me. And yeah, I totally agree. And so, to me, I just think that they need to keep with the history. There's a lot of things in WWE's history that I'm sure they want to avoid, but you can't. It's part of a wide web of great, moments in the history, and you can't, jump over one part without, you just can't leave anything out, for my personal opinion. But let's talk about the financials. There's a lot of financial stuff that came out this week, and Sean, I think you're going to kind of touch on some for us, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about all the financial stuff because this is on a business podcast, number one. Number two, all that stuff is boring. You're not going to want to... You don't care about whether or not WWE revenue went up and all this other BS. All the crap went up. That's all you need to know. Seriously. If you really want to know all the technical stuff, you can go on all those websites and find it. Honestly, I'm not being rude. I'm just saying. It's like, why waste 15 minutes talking about something that, for one, hardly I understand it, and let alone I'm pretty sure most people will probably just kind of like skip. So here's the stuff you really probably do care about. Their pay-per-views, namely Night of Champions, doubled the Night of Champions from last year. So guess what? Sting equals pay-per-view buys. So that means they ain't get it for the Sting anytime soon. So if you're a Sting fan, I'm pretty sure you should be happy about that. They did 44,000 buys last year. They did 77,000 buys this year. Who was on the cover of all the stuff for Night of Champions? But let alone Mr. Sting. Hopefully that injury is the thing that they said it was, where it's not that big a deal, and they're just letting him convalesce. Yeah, so aside from that, the Live and MSG show is now the most watched program on the network, aside from pay-per-views. I'm guessing this also... I don't know if this includes or not includes NXT specials. They just say pay-per-views. So when they say pay-per-views, I imagine that means WWE pay-per-views and not NXT takeover events. So... there you go. Another reason why there's a rumor going around that there might be another live special coming up pretty soon here.
That's right.
But the big thing is the network, which is the most important thing for them and for us and for all the people that subscribe to the network, because it's awesome. We don't want it to go away. As much as people want to moan and complain about, well, we got to tell them we don't want the network so that they do stuff. But so apparently they had 1,173,000 paid subscribers during the quarter, and they had about a few more of those when the quarter ended. So they're averaging around 1.2. So they lost the 1.3 from the 1.2 from WrestleMania. So actually not that bad. They're retaining a lot of people, which is good. And they're not having to do that bull crap. You get a whole free month thing. Now it's like a free trial like anything else when you order a subscription service. So they premiered more than 85 hours of original content on the network. And good news for everybody else, which probably just means a bunch more Raws and Smackdowns. I wouldn't get my hopes up about more Nitros and more older stuff. But they are wanting to increase the almost 4,000 hours of old footage that they had, old stuff. They're wanting to actually add more. And in fact, they've added tons of Raws and Smackdowns from 2002 all the way to 2004. They added some Chris Benoit ones, which they made a big deal of on the internet without telling people. Well, whoop-de-doo. So, hey, that's good for everybody. All the people that complain that they don't add enough old stuff, I guess they're doing that. They realize that people do like to watch old stuff. It's just, seriously, like, who can literally sit around and watch 4,000 hours of old stuff? Nobody. Look at us. We can hardly watch the new stuff that comes on every week. Imagine going back and watching the old stuff. You know that thing that we tried to start for like a whole month now? You know how long that's taken us to even try to do? That's just one 3-hour program. Imagine if we were trying to go back and watch more than just one 3-hour program.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So, hey, good things from WWE at least. I mean, I know people are going to complain that, well, this sucks and it means that they won't change anything and whatever, but to go along with this too, they've the tap out thing is not only a merchandising thing, they're also going to have tap out fitness centers around the United States. So you can, if you're a big fan of WWE, you can go to a WWE fitness center, people. And yeah, there you go. I don't know if they'll include some kind of network thing with that, or they'd be kind of smart if they did. Like, hey, get a monthly plan to our tap out gym center and get a free month of the network or something. Whatever. I don't know. But apparently, if a wrestler lives in your area, you might see them teaching a class or something. And there's going to be a lot of WWE branded things in that fitness center. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'd kind of want to check it out. I don't know if I'd pay the exorbitant fee sometimes if they want you to pay to be part of those things, but.
It'd be a lot of fun to check out, and I could definitely see them, naming different rooms or, parts of the, equipment or something like that after wrestlers or things like that. The only thing is, if it is WWE themed, I don't know. There's a lot of great wrestlers in WWE in their past, but the showers is the one thing that would scare me. I would hope there would be a.
Oh,
yeah,
dear.
I'll leave that alone. But I would be terrified.
Maybe you shouldn't have touched that one at all.
I'm just saying, no blades near the shower. Thank you.
Yeah, totally not.
But anyway, great stuff. That is really good news. I'm glad to hear that the financials and of course, WWE's doing well. That means good things for us, hopefully, and hopefully good things to come. So,
maybe one day we'll hear about those TNA financials.
I think that's going to happen in never. But it will maybe when they're closed and that stuff becomes public. But anyway, guys, let's move on to some rapid hits. We got a lot of stuff to touch on in a brief time, so I'm going to rattle off some things and you react. Taryn Terrell found Jesus, everyone. That's right. She has gone private on her Twitter, and she is not saying a whole lot, but she is very, thrilled about this.
They released a 10-minute video talking about.
Yeah. Man, it's crazy to ever think that, yeah. But, I mean, what are your thoughts?
It's a very interesting video if you're interested at all, and it just sort of what turns people to all that is what I find more interesting than anything.
Yeah, it didn't seem like even though she's apparently not done with TNA, depending on who you believe, she's supposed to be part of that UK tour. I don't know how that would work, but I just hope it's not a stunt and whatever, because I think that's, I'm not as religious as I was when I lived around Gary and went to church a lot more frequently and whatever, but I still think that that's something you don't play around with. I was one of the ones that did not particularly care for that stupid storyline with Vince and God and all that stuff, so I just think that's one of those things that if you're going to do it, you do it, and if you don't, that's not one of those you turn into a storyline and make a character and whatever. But, good on her if it changed her life. I don't know if she was doing anything terrible or whatever for them, but if it, makes her life with her kid better and all that stuff, go Taryn Terrell.
WWE is going to be doing a live event in LA this December, and Brock Lesnar is advertised for it, so that leads to speculation of it possibly being another network special.
Wouldn't be surprised in the least if it was.
I hope so. I like these network specials.
Table for Three has been a lot of fun to watch, but guess what? They've got a new one coming out. Charlotte, Natalya, and Tamina are going to be on the table. What do you guys think about that?
Not the most interesting trio of ladies I would like to hear about from the Revolution, but it's still worth watching. Table for Three has been awesome.
Agreed on Table for Three being awesome. I'm pretty sure someone that will not be on the table, Mr. Suzuka. He certainly probably will not be talked about.
Rusev has been injured in TV tapings this last week. It is a bicep injury for apparently a tendon issue. But, this could put him on the shelf for a little while. Thoughts?
Poor guy cannot catch a break. My God. Hopefully he gets better soon, though. The guy is a beast in the ring.
Damn it, I'm going to miss that stable of losers that was happening. Like, it's just... Come on. Damn it, Rusev. But, yeah, hopefully it gets better.
Lots of speculation on Alberto Del Rio's contract with WWE. A lot of people have been stating different numbers. But one thing that we do know is that he has some, wiggle room here. He's been able to do some of the dates that he had already promised people. And, of course, he gets more time off.
No, he's not. They booked him for Raw and not going on. They delayed that AAA show because they booked him for Raw instead.
Okay, well, they did some of the things I've read recently said he was allowed to do.
I'm just saying, WWE just totally said, nope, screw you.
Yeah, they must have changed their mind. But, okay, so take that away. But, still, think about this. He's still got a part-time schedule in the way because he does have more time off than he used to, apparently, and that's part of his contract.
He's also still the AAA Mega Champion. He has not dropped the title or left it or suspended it or anything like that, so... an interesting situation and one that I kind of have a problem with, but I'll save that for later.
All right. Fair enough.
This is funny, that whole thing with... this is one of those times Meltzer got egg on his face. And you gotta... As people that have to deal with reading reports and figuring out whether we need to talk about it or not, it's so funny when, 3 different people come out and go, well, that's not right. That's not right either. That sounds... totally stupid. Oh, wait, he's making $500,000 instead of $1.45 million? Damn, somebody totally screwed up. I don't know, but whatever the guy's making, he's making a hell of a lot more than I am, and shit. I wish I was making whatever. Who cares whether one of those two figures? That's awesome if you're anyone.
Yep, that's right. So... let's move on to the last thing we got to talk about here, and that is Lucha Underground. Everybody knows that they are currently starting to get ready to film, and if they're not already filming, Season 2 of Lucha Underground, but they are also going to throw in Season 3 as well. They're going to try to pack it all in and get things done. So it seems to me that they're trying to save a little bit of money by doing this. What are your thoughts?
More Lucha Underground, the better. Season 1 was amazing. I don't see how that goes downhill at all, personally.
This is awesome, but what's even more awesome is the supposed sci-fi movie they could make with Lucha Underground. If Robert Rodriguez is involved in that, I'm totally buying a ticket to watch it wherever the hell it is. I want to see it now.
Yeah, I definitely would too. It'd be a lot of fun to watch. I know it would. They do lots of great things for Lucha Underground, and we're hoping for more. I'm just excited about that Season 3 already being in the works. I've been worried about the 2 seasons.
Can you imagine what they're going to put in that movie?
Oh, my God.
We already see the crazy stuff they do on the show. I can't imagine.
Yeah, they'll probably have Blue Demon Jr. blow up or something. So, but anyway, I'm looking forward to it no matter what. I can't wait to see if they do come out with that movie. But that, pretty much wraps it up, guys. That's quick hits for you. Lots of great things to talk about, but we have a lot more to talk about. Don't worry. We've got to cover, of course, Monday Night Raw and a few of other things. Plus, don't forget, Sean is going to do a WWE 2K16 review following Raw, so you don't want to miss it, guys. Well, that pretty much leads us into it. So let's go ahead and talk Monday Night Raw.
WWE Monday Night Raw.
Well, before we talk about Raw, we had one person here that was not part of that. What seems like so long, it's actually a week ago now.
Yeah.
That Hell in a Cell pay-per-view review show that we did. So, Paul didn't get to really say anything about what he liked about the pay-per-view, what he didn't like, or whatever. So, any thoughts still sticking out for you from that pay-per-view?
It's a very meh show. I gave it a 7. The Hell in a Cell match is delivered, which is what you wanted. Del Rio showing up was a surprise, and one that I was kind of down on, because I think it's the same thing that we get on TNA about. Whenever they bring in these old guys and not pushing the new talent, you're kind of sending the wrong message. You don't have faith in these other guys you're bringing up, so you have to bring in this guy. Just irks me a lot.
Yeah. And the one thing I did say about that, Paul, was I get why they did it because, well, let's be honest, they've been looking for that Latino figure for that crowd, and they haven't found it, and Del Rio is the guy that was a big part of it and helped the crowd. So, I don't know. I think that's the biggest reason why. I'm not sure they're trying to put down young talent, but they could be.
I just hope that they really don't go full force with this, and then they turn him again, and it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I can see that blowing up in their face really bad.
Definitely. And,
I'm just curious how much Del Rio is actually doing for people, because on Raw he still didn't do anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd rather have him back in Lucha, honestly.
I agree, because I just keep seeing these images of Del Rio versus Sheamus again. I really do, and it's terrifying.
Who doesn't want that?
Boy.
Yeah. The one thing I didn't want is to see Zeb Coulter in a scooter. That terrifies me. I love that guy. I was so concerned for his health. So
Yeah, he's back. That's the great thing about Del Rio. You get to finally see Zeb again.
yeah, it's just good that Undertaker let him borrow it. I mean, that was a really man-up thing to do.
I mean, it's nice of him, really.
Yeah.
Well, we all gave it a 7. Looks like then. People were heralding it as one of the best pay-per-views WWE's done all year, which doesn't say much, but
Ouch.
I had to answer that question on Fact to Fiction this week, and I'm sitting there going, damn, there really hasn't been that many great WWE pay-per-views this year. So, I don't know. A 7's pretty good for them, I guess. But, that's the thing with WWE pay-per-views. It's kind of like one of those, you get to the build-up and you're like, all right, this has been okay. And then you get to the pay-per-view and it's like, hey, this was better than okay. And then it's like, okay, well, but this wasn't great either, so
I feel
whatever.
like we've rated a couple of them better than a 7, though.
Yeah. It might
Yeah.
have been just on in-ring work or...
That's very possible. It's very possible.
There's so many, it's like a blur at some point.
It is.
So we get on to this week's, technically it would be last week's Raw now, since by the time most of you hear this, it is now Monday. Probably past this, which then you've already seen the new Raw, and, well, this is why I put timestamps in the show now, so that if we get to this kind of occasion, you can just go skip to the other parts that haven't happened yet. So, not saying you should skip this part. I'm just saying if you don't want to hear about a Raw that's now a week old, that's what you can do. Either way, now I have completely lost what I'm trying to do here. Anyway, Raw was in San Diego, California, so they picked the greatest time for Del Rio to come back, right when they're in the Latin part of, or one of the strongest Latin parts of the United States. Again, this is going to really misconstrue that people were really missing Del Rio, because when you get into those Middle America places that don't give a flying crap about the fact that Del Rio is Mexican, that's when you'll really know what the feeling is on the guy. But we'll get more on that later, as he does have a match in this glorified tournament version of Raw. They had Stephanie and Triple H come out, because why the hell not? Have the Authority come out to start Raw.
We can't break tradition, Sean. We just can't do it.
Yeah. So they at least didn't take forever on this one, so I'll give them credit for that. They talked about the pay-per-view, all this stuff, again, saying it's great and all this stuff, and then they bring out Seth Rollins, because again, we can't start a show without Seth Rollins going on. At least he is the WWE champion, so that's noted. And even though Seth was saying he was speechless, he was continually talking. So, when you're speechless, that means you don't talk. That doesn't mean you just continually talk. But either way, they basically announced that we're going to have a mini tournament, basically, to introduce your number one contender at the end of the night with a fatal 4-way after all this. So, basically, it bleeds in the first match, and the rest of the night is a tournament. So, with my questions from Raw this week are pretty much, this was a very logical way to do Raw. This was a very straightforward way to do Raw. Probably one of the most logical Raws we've ever seen in a long time. A lot of people were heralding this Raw as one of the greatest Raws we've seen in quite some time. Why can't Raw be like this every week, guys?
I'll say this is certainly one of the better Raws of the year, and we could probably go top 5 even. Not just for simplicity's sake, just wrestling, but like every match pretty much on the show, as far as the tournament went, just delivered. Absolutely nailed it. Why can't it be this good I don't know. I don't know why WWE can't think this logically every week, but here we are, and maybe this will get them to turn around, although I don't know how good the rating was, so hopefully they're just trying to bounce back by giving us what they think we want. Who knows? Anyway, I mean, I loved the entire evening. The 3 hours flew by whenever I did get a chance to watch it on demand, so.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I know a lot of people were heralding it, and I was kind of one of them as well. I mean, I really enjoyed it. Sometimes, I'll be honest, I get bored during Raw because it's the same thing every week, and I just, I've got to truck through it. I've got to see the most important parts because, of the show and making sure I get it all in. But there's sometimes I think, man, if I didn't do this show, I'd be skipping a lot of it because it's the same things over and over again. This week it wasn't that way. It was nice. It was a breath of fresh air. This tournament was a great idea. I know you can't do a tournament all the time, but this is a great way to get people interested, get people seeing what's going on, and I was thrilled. I was very happy with it, and I think the tournament worked out the way that it needed to work out, so I was very happy with it.
You know what's so cool about a tournament, right? It's the fact that every match on the show matters. And you can do that when you don't have tournaments too. It's not that hard, WWE. If you would make us think that these wins and losses that these wrestlers have mean something in the end, there's so much more attention paid to the finer details of your show. But I think more people tuned in. The rating did go up because, well, not to mention the Monday Night Football game was crap until the end of the game, but they had a big rating for the beginning, and then it dropped when they got to the 9 and 10 o'clock hour, but that's good. At least people were paying attention to the beginning, meaning they cared about the pay-per-view that happened before. So, to me, it's just every match on the show matters, and you said it, Paul, every match on the show pretty much delivered. So, that being said, your first match was Roman Reigns against Kofi Kingston, who, of course, is a tag team champion, and all the champions retained except for John Cena, who is doing his break right now, and, of course, that's why they had Del Rio come in and beat him. So, are you okay, or is it okay that both the tag team champions lost, but your U.S. champion and IC champion both moved on? Should at least one of the New Day members been in that Fatal 4-Way match?
I certainly think you could have made a solid argument for it in light of what's happening. I'm okay with it. Kofi loses to Roman Reigns. We all know where Reigns is going. No big deal. Big E losing to Dolph. There's some fun tension to be had there, obviously with their past relationship. But with Dolph's sort of momentum in the air now that Rusev is gone, I think it's probably better he did get the win here just so he does have something to work off of in the future.
It really doesn't need the New Day in that top four. They just don't need it, let's be honest. I mean, those guys are great. They're doing a great job, but their thing and their shtick and their gimmick works on its own. You don't need them in the top four of this tournament. You're just enjoying watching them and listening to what they have to say and all of that. So, no, it doesn't bother me at all. Sure, it'd be fun to see him in it, but it's definitely okay not having him in it. These other guys really need this tournament more than New Day does.
I'd agree with you on there. I mean, I'm okay with it because they are the tag team champions, not singles champions.
Right.
So, it's okay if they lose any singles match. But then the only thing I would have said is that, God, we know Dolph ain't winning. Why not let Big E go through and see what happens? Just to give it something a little fresh. But, it is what it is. One of the matches that they had, obviously with Alberto Del Rio being your U.S. champion, as he was in one of these things. They had Owens and Cesaro for like the umpteenth time, but of course that freaking match never gets old because they are awesome together. In fact, Cesaro's spinning uppercut had to be one of the just most ridiculous things I've ever seen. And I mean, I don't understand, again, I said this during the Hell in a Cell, I've said this every single week, I've said this, I don't know how many times, but that old saying of somebody lights up a room when they walk in, this guy lights up the ring when he is in it, and when he is outside around the ring area. I don't know how you can not see that if you're Vince or anybody else. Maybe he doesn't get a ridiculous reaction when he does something, but that Cesaro section thing is there. The crowd seems to go with him a bit. I feel like if you do something with that, it could go somewhere, but it's just like they don't. Vince is intent on just destroying any of that, period.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not content with using Ryback anymore after his feud with Kevin Owens is over, they can totally put Cesaro in that spot, and that'll work out just fine. But if they're content with him being the workhorse in the mid-card who doesn't do anything, then, I mean, that's not the worst spot in the world, but it certainly is a giant waste of talent.
It's so funny, Ryback is the guy apparently that goes with the Vince and says, I'm ready to take over for John Cena. So he has confidence in himself. I'm just not so Vince or the rest of the creative have talent, or the confidence in him that he has in himself. So I do think it's a waste of talent. But you could say that for a lot of these guys. Cesaro, like Sean was pointing out, being a big highlight in the ring. They just don't have it right now for them. They cannot figure out what to do, which is kind of weird to me because I think these guys do fit a role. I think they have their special spots. It's just up to them to actually place them. It is what it is. I mean, I think this is a runaround we've been doing a long time with these mid-card guys.
Alright, well, I was getting to a thing with Del Rio here. We saw him, this is his first match on Raw back since, he was here before. He has this thing with, he's a Mex America champion now, and all this stuff with Zeb Coulter. Do you feel that there was anything different about Del Rio this time? We did hear some El Patron chants, him being in that area. And do you like his pairing with Zeb Coulter?
I feel like he's the exact same bland babyface he was when he left. There's nothing different about him. He doesn't stick out. Zeb doing everything doesn't do anything for me because it's all just so sudden. There's not been anything really to happen here, or Del Rio for him to really do anything. So, I mean, the possibility of all the fresh matches is interesting, but so far he's the same boring character he was when he left, and I was much more happier with him in Lucha Underground. I really was.
It's just an odd pairing with Del Rio and Zeb Coulter, and I guess you could say not only because of the gimmicks that they had before, where Zeb Coulter, the all-American, only American, anti-everybody else in this world, where basically, let's be honest, Del Rio was pro-Mexican. That was what he was about. It wasn't about anything else, and for them to be paired together in the Mex America thing, it's interesting, but it still feels so awkward. It's hard for me to watch and not think, this feels forced.
Yeah, that feels really weird. I'd have to agree. It's just, did they just not have faith in Del Rio to talk? Did they does Zeb Coulter have something in his contract that says he has to be on TV or something? I mean, like, I can't imagine that's what that is. It just, it seems like they're like trying to be PC against Donald Trump or something.
It's either that or they're trying to make light on the fact that, hey, we know that Del Rio left amongst a whole bunch of rumors and what came to be known as facts about somebody being racist towards him. Maybe this is just them trying to fix that bridge,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I can see a lot of truth in that. I don't know. It's interesting. To be honest with you, I can't say Del Rio is going to work until I actually see it. There's not enough proof yet. The sample size is very small in his return.
Yeah. I mean, him and Neville worked a pretty good match, I thought. The fans still do the CCC when he's going to do the arm breaker, so, they react to him. He's not just there, at least.
But, you got to get away from the San Diego area, though, and the California area in general. You got to get over to, I don't know, Idaho.
Well, you'd have to be out of Texas, too.
Yeah, Texas. I mean, go to South Dakota. Go to these places that are, even Pittsburgh. Go places where, the Latino community isn't so large and see how it gets over there. That's your true answer.
Yeah. Still thought I'd ask the question. So we finally get Paige turning heel. This is what she needed, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you rate the whole segment came off here after the match, and they had that whole thing with, Paige was happy about having Team PCB together again. It was really obvious what was going on for anybody that's watched wrestling, but did you like the segment, the way it came off at the end there?
I thought it was fine. I thought it was very necessary to get to this next phase, hopefully, what the Divas Revolution is going to be about. Because, hopefully, you have PCB turn into whatever, NBC or whatever they're going to have it now, and Paige sort of on the outside, and then you start having all these other people start breaking off. Hopefully we can get back to, or getting to what NXT has done so successfully, and that's building singles feuds.
Oh, please let it be. I've been waiting so long. Let it be. That's fine, and, I think that Paige turning full heel, not playing this in between, not playing this I'm a heel, then I'm a face, and I'm a heel. I'm glad they finally have done this, and it's going to work. And I'll say this. I want the group thing to end. I definitely want all the groups to end. I want to get to the singles competitor role once again. But if there's been some thought process on maybe even Alundra Blaze and Natalya kind of hooking up to make some kind of splash, I hope that happens, but if it doesn't, I definitely hope the singles thing happens quicker. But it would be really cool to see Alundra Blaze come back, and even if it's just a tag with Natalya, that'd be awesome.
I'd agree with you on that. I'd like to see Alundra Blaze have one more match or something. Is there a point to this Barrett Sheamus? Well, we don't know what's going to happen with it now that Rusev is going to be out for a little bit, but is there a point to this stable, you think?
I certainly hope so. I think it would be a really neat idea to start building something around Sheamus for the eventual cash-in, because I don't think we've seen somebody do the cash-in that didn't have the Authority sort of around him. Because, Randy cashing in was sort of the start of the Authority. So, him having a pre-built stable and then coming out and force the cash-in, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty neat. I'm just trying to think of the name of the stable. What are they called? I don't know. The Potatoes or something? I don't know.
Potatoes. Wow.
Going off the Irish gimmick, I can't think of anything better, honestly, with these three. It's just a big mix. So, yeah. It's good for what it's worth, but I guess these guys work together because they all kind of can bore you to death, and together, at least you're getting them all out of the way in one match.
Come on, Gary. I like Rusev a lot. He doesn't.
Rusev's the better one. He's the better one, but the two I could do without.
No. how the king has fallen, certainly. So we saw this, what seemed like a segment that took a little too long for my taste. It seemed very drawn out, but Bray Wyatt went after Kane, set him up so that the Wyatt family would all basically attack him and everything. It makes sense. And it seems like we're building to a obvious team thing at Survivor Series. Who would you put in the Undertaker and Kane team of the other two guys, I guess?
I'm sure Dean is on the short list, and after that I have no clue. And I only say Dean because it's probably the only thing he can still do right now that creative can think of, because they, according to reports, they have no idea what to do with the guy, so stick him there.
But once again, we've got all these rumors of, Dean is going to turn on Roman, so.
I mean, you can always wait on that. I mean, Roman Reigns is not going to go anywhere if booking has their way, so that can wait till whenever you feel like you need to pull the trigger on it. But if you got to fill out this team, I think you put Dean on there, and I don't know who you put in that last spot though.
Yeah, it's kind of a difficult, thing to do because of the fact that the Wyatts have feuded with different people, but Dean Ambrose may be that key guy next to him, and especially with Roman Reigns doing his own thing now, it makes it even tougher because, to me, it would make complete sense for Undertaker, Kane, and of course the, old Shield to get together and take on the Wyatts. So I think you're going to get into a situation where you may get Dean Ambrose, but the guy is going to have to be somebody who's in a different realm or someone who hasn't really had a chance to take him on. I think it'd be really cool personally.
I think different realm.
Sting.
Yeah, Sting. Sting would be fantastic in this role. I think if they've been wanting to, supposedly Bray Wyatt was going to be his opponent at one point. Why not plant some seeds now? Why not, play that out? I mean, it's something where he doesn't have to do hardly anything. He doesn't have to be involved in any kind of crazy spot. He can get in there, do the Stinger Splash, do the Scorpion Death Drop, and whatever,
I think to make it fair, though, we've got to lower the talent maybe in one area because you got, Eric Rowan's in this match. So, you got to lower the talent level a little bit. So that means Sting or Dean Ambrose would be out of the equation, which I would lean towards Ambrose possibly. So I'd put Baron Corbin in there if I was going to do that.
Why?
That way, well, you got to have someone who matches up well with talent level.
Why torture? Why the torture? I still think Sting would make a lot of sense. Sting would be something for a spectacle as far as the crowd. It would be a 1-year anniversary of his debut in WWE. Coming back to pay-per-view where he showed up for the first time. And perhaps you have a Samoa Joe finally show up or something. I think one of them needs to be somebody new. Person. I mean, Ambrose makes total sense. Ambrose makes total sense, and if you're going to have Sting, then there's your 4 right there. But I think one of them needs to be somebody new, honestly. Even if he only debuts and we don't see him for a little bit or something. I think JR hit on a note there. I don't know if you make him come out. JR wanted him to come out at Hell in a Cell. I don't know about that. But making somebody new part of the team wouldn't be bad. And again, the only people I can think of is Joe would be the only one I think that matches up as far as like physical wise. Unless you are gonna put Baron Corbin in that role, but I just don't see Baron Corbin being somebody that you look at and go, I want to cheer for that guy.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just going for the mystique.
Yeah, I mean, it's Taker picking the people now if that's the way we're going. So who knows? As far as storyline goes.
Well, I mean, if Taker's picking it, then hope to God it's not Randy Orton.
Oh, Lord.
That would be, I mean, if he's, however long he's going to be out after the shoulder surgery, that'll matter a lot.
Yeah. I would assume it's, to be safe, wouldn't be surprised at all if it's Ambrose and then they reveal Sting like really late, and there's your 4. And you could plant the seeds of Sting and Wyatt there. So, I mean, my last question here, which is one that might be rather obvious. Is Roman Reigns the right person to be number 1 contender right now?
Absolutely. It's the one guy that they haven't done with Seth yet. They've kept them apart for a reason. This is why. I'm assuming Roman would be the guy to lift the belt off Seth if that's the way they want to go. Especially if the Shield triple threat is going to be a thing at WrestleMania, which I totally hope it is, because that would be way awesome. But, yeah, I mean, that would be a good reason to have Dean turns, because all the success and everything, and then he's just sort of been here in the background, forgotten once again, and, you know, you have Seth playing the middle guy, just wanting to be the guy again. And it would work really well.
I definitely can see it as well. I mean, you've got a guy that's been in the wane. He's been waiting a long time for this, you know, and they're finally going to get the opportunity to try this out and get him in that picture. The crowd has definitely lined up on him a little bit here and there. You do get still the boos here or there. You still do get people not in big favor of him, but for the most part, I think people's mindsets have changed on Roman Reigns, so I think WWE is going to take advantage of it.
That's where I think Hell in a Cell helped him a lot. He definitely had, if not the best match, he was tied up there with it. I know there are some people that didn't like the match, and that's fine, but I think the sort of majority is that it was match of the night or thereabouts. And, you know, Roman Reigns was part of that. So I think he has improved, certainly. Mm-hmm. And they've tried to get him to improve in other areas too. So, you know, I kind of get what you're saying there, Gary, with the people have kind of lightened up on him. Let's see if they lighten up any more.
Yeah.
On him as far as going to the belt. I don't know. I'm kind of, you know, Paul's thing makes total sense as far as having Dean turn. But I'm more of one of those. Roman had his almost moment at WrestleMania. Wouldn't it be appropriate for him to take the title away from Seth at WrestleMania, where he took the title away from him? So, I don't know. Something to think about there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's your Raw. I also agree. Roman Reigns is the guy right now. I think you can hate him all you want to, but Roman Reigns is that guy. And why not test the waters now instead of waiting till later down the line and they turn on him again or something? Just see if anything has lightened up at all.
Mm.
So we got to do a rating for this Raw. How high are we going?
I'm thinking 8.
Oh, man. That's hard. I think it's a good Raw. I think it did a lot of good things, but, man. And 8's a pretty good rating for me. But you know what? We just talked about it. It's probably been one of the better ones of the year thus far. Yeah, I'll go 8 as well. It's a very on the verge 8.
I'll say an 8 too. Just, it was simple. Everything was to the point. Everything mattered. Everything went off the pay-per-view, mostly. Or it's been a storyline that's been building, like the Paige thing. So, and I thought they pulled that off pretty decently. So, let's see what happens on the Raw that's coming up, later.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, I certainly enjoyed it more than I did Hell in a Cell. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can definitely see where you're coming from because, we talked about this on the show last Sunday night after Hell in a Cell. The Hell in a Cell matches were fine, but besides that, the rest of it kind of struggled. So I can kind of agree with you a little bit on that. So, all right, guys. Well, it is time for us to go on and talk some NXT. So why don't we go ahead and do that next?
All right, NXT. As I forget what I'm doing here for a second. As Emma starts off NXT along with Dana Brooke alongside her in a match against a fellow Australian in Shaza. As the match was pretty much a squash, and Emma kind of showing off her nasty, aggressive side. And I love the whole, like, basically doing an old school curb stomp on Shaza before doing the Emma lock. That was great. And then it kind of sets up the whole, like, okay, Emma's not scared of Asuka, and they're going to go at it. So I'm all down for that.
I do. I want to see Emma used more on NXT. I certainly think she's a very valuable hand to have, and somebody who I think very much deserves a shot at Bayley at some point. But yeah, Asuka I think is the way that they're going right now, and we all know what Asuka is here to do, and that's kill bitches dead. So even though Emma's nasty, she ain't got no chance.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, no, I mean, you're right, Paul, and, you know, it's nice to see Emma do something well here and get a chance to showcase what she's got. But, yeah, I think that, you know, this all leads up to that Asuka match.
Yep, and this is after that they had the one segment of the show in which, did y'all think anything of Shaza while she was out there?
You didn't really get to see a lot of what she can do. She's a very prominent member of Shimmer now, in that Australian contingent that's been traveling around with all the women promotions over here in the States. She's very talented. She's very good. She's not up there with like a Kaylee Ray or, you know, like a Jessie McKay who is signed with NXT now or anything like that, but she's getting there. She is getting there.
So, you know, we get to the part of the show in which I'm sure Paul hit the fast forward button where they had to recap James Storm debuting the week before.
Oh, you know me so well, Sean.
And him cutting that promo where he was happy to know that the NXT fans belong. I swear, like, seeing that one guy that was just like, looked like he was pissing his pants. He was so happy that James Storm had showed up in NXT. It's just, I was like, wow, of all the people. It's just...
You would have saw my face react the same way when James Storm came out, but it wouldn't be for James Storm. It'd be like, where's Crazy Steve?
Stupid Crazy Steve. Yeah, but, you know, everybody's going to be sorry for their damn luck that I guess they have to see James Storm in NXT, namely Paul.
Joy.
So, hey, you know what? He does cut decent promos. As much as you may or may not like his wrestling ability or lack thereof. So, you know, we get more stuff. We get a little nice video package of Finn that's pretty much all the same stuff we've already seen, and Apollo Crews kind of talking about him, so kind of building up to their little title match. And then we have this match, which the big part of this show was supposed to be Joe and Tyler Breeze, and my God, forget that match. This match was golden. This was fantastic. I mean, tag team wrestling at its finest between Chad Gable and Jason Jordan and Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. I felt like it could go either way. They were just going at it, and it was so much fun to watch. And my lord, is Gable just beloved by this NXT crowd. And they were chanting their names in the way of Kurt Angle's music, which, again, may or may not have ruffled some feathers, but what do you guys think here?
Can't control a crowd. Let's get over ourselves here for a second. The best part about Gable and Jordan is that they clicked so quickly, and they just seem to get tag team wrestling, and that's, I mean, you're starting to get that too with Dash and Dawson, but just, you know, the tag division's building up really nicely here, and this is further proof, even with Ciampa and Gargano, who are not usual tag team partners, I mean, outside of NXT at least, they work pretty well together. So I just, you know, you get a nice little division building now.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that this match kind of proved that, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys can do moving on. But Jordan and Gable are just a blast. Love those guys, and of course, me, I'm a big Tommaso Ciampa fan, so I'm rooting for him all the way, whatever he can do. But this tag team division is definitely improved with these tag teams.
I mean, like Gable's just like he's doing simple wrestling stuff. I mean, he's not like going out there and doing shooting star presses and all this stuff. I mean, he is just doing the most simple things, and he makes those entertaining, and it's just, he gets it, I think. He's going to be something. I don't know exactly how much of something, but he is going to be something. I can't wait to see if him and Jordan can go on to the main roster and be big, because Gable, I think, is going to be turning some Vince heads, at least. And I didn't mean, like, I was only saying that in the way that I wonder if there's anything on Triple H's side where he's just like, oh, God, why do we have to be doing anything that involves Kurt Angle at all with this? But yeah, that's going to be interesting, because certainly they've both been compared to world's great. We've compared them to world's greatest tag team. Everybody in the whole internet has said it. So, just yeah, I think Triple H would be stupid not to know that he basically has like mini Kurt Angle when Kurt Angle first came in, sort of on his hands there. But yeah, this was certainly the best match of the show. It felt like it got way more than 12 minutes. I'm gonna assume that this is counting just on what was seen without commercials or something, because damn, it felt like it went like 20 minutes. Maybe they were just so good that it felt like it went that long, but it didn't. So we get some more stuff with Eva Marie. And the Red Queen is coming back pretty soon, and we do get Kaylee Ray here against Nia Jax, and Nia Jax does her thing, where she just squashes you in about a couple minutes, this time doing a Canadian backbreaker instead of doing the bear hug, and then doing the bear hug spinebuster thing, which I guess is her finisher. And then she hits a nasty looking, leg drop, because she's huge, and that would kill someone. So, it's totally fine. I don't want those hips shot to my face.
Oh no.
So, yeah, just more anything not impressive about Nia Jax here?
We've only seen her in the squashes so far. I like her offense. Her finisher is certainly devastating. Hopefully we get to see more out of her in the future.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious the direction, if they're going to get, any ideas of how to use her in a different way, or if they're just going to continue making her dominant and beating everybody because of her sheer size. So, there's some interesting components to it, but I think right now it's going to be more on the, getting her over as the big diva, the kind of like the Awesome Kong type character.
Yeah, exactly. So we basically have the mechanics injure Enzo and Cass, and especially Cass. Didn't Cass have some kind of injury or something? This is why they did this. He had some kind of legit injury.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Cass basically, his knee is totally just busted. As then we get the Alexa Bliss challenging Bayley to a 6-person tag with, Team Banff against the whoever two that Bayley can find. I don't know. Who would you say works here for Bayley as far as partners?
Jeez.
That's tough.
Is there even another face on the NXT roster?
That's exactly what I'm racking my brain, man. Jeez. I mean,
other than the main event guys, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that.
Really? I mean, my lord. I mean, let's call back not Dana, excuse me. Call back somebody from the WWE roster to do it, because I think all the faces left.
No, I mean, unless, Asuka, but...
Yeah.
Well, no, but, this would be 2 guys with Bayley.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's right, because I've got, oh, man. Well, you can...
I'm sure there's a duo that's ready, willing, and Gable out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. You read my mind, Paul.
As they did it, the stuff with Apollo Crews this time was more about his stuff since he's been in NXT, so it wasn't as revealing, but you do get some nice just thoughts from him on certain things, which I thought were kind of cool. What, any thoughts there?
His portion on the first episode of Breaking Ground was a bit more interesting than this was, but it's whatever. They're trying to build to him and Finn. He's obviously, they're both baby faces, so it's gonna be respect thing. So
exactly, and that's gonna be interesting for the reason that it's gonna be fun to watch. But when it comes to storyline, it won't be so interesting. But it's okay. It'd be worth it.
So we get to the main event with Joe versus Breeze, and it's basically Breeze doing the whole, I'm gonna run around and make Joe get tired and whatever, and then finally Joe just says screw that, and he does his elbow suicida to the outside, which is always fantastic, and yeah, and then he makes Joe mad, and he's like, oh, this is what you wanted, and then he goes after him, and we get a near fall, but Joe winds up winning, making Breeze tap out with the choke. And yeah, I'm sure this isn't completely over, but yeah, and then we have Finn basically saying that Apollo Crews is not going to win the NXT Championship next week. But what do you think about the main event here?
Not too bad. Pretty much what I expected, especially with Breeze seemingly moving on to the main roster. So, little bits here and there from Breeze, but Joe ends up killing him in the end.
Yep. he goes ahead and takes out the trash early, except he doesn't throw his shoulder out doing it.
Burn.
But yeah, I know. I had to throw that in there, somewhere. But I think it's what had to happen. That's just what goes on with Tyler Breeze now. He has somebody that needs to get put over. He does it, and so there you go. I mean, even though he's gonna on the main roster, it's okay. I do like when Tyler Breeze has some victories. I enjoy it, but against, a big guy like Joe, no, it doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way. So,
But hey, you know what? Joe didn't get what, Tyler Breeze got on Raw, where he got his own VIP section. So.
True. That's true.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that. Did you like, the way they debuted Mr. Breeze there? Continuing his feud with Dolph Ziggler, basically.
I mean, it makes sense. I think it's a nice way to slot him into something that they already have going on that sort of got left in pieces after the whole TMZ thing with Lana and Rusev sort of put a whole stop to all that, so works for me.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that the commentary, Devo had to make, totally forget that there's like this little thing with chairs and a table like 2 feet away from them on one side. And call that the VIP section. That was great.
Yeah, that is hilarious. Gotta love it. So.
That's NXT though.
Alright guys, well, we are done with that, but guess what? We have other great stuff coming your way. Don't forget, we're talking some TNA and some ROH pretty soon here. And we're also going to crown a Superstar of the Week, but before we do all that fun stuff and get into all those topics, we need to get our review on. That's right, WWE 2K16 has come out. It is ready for people to play, and Sean was lucky enough to get his hands on it, and he has played it, and he is going to give us the rundown. So, Sean, hey, kind of give us an idea about this game. What's going on with it?
Are we not doing our topic first?
Did you want to do the topic first? Yeah, we can go do the topic first, and we'll do your review. How about that? So go ahead. Sean had a really interesting topic that kind of links up with NXT, and that is a possibility of another brand split. Because let's be honest, the mid card for WWE is kind of not really thrilled about what's going on. The upper card on the main roster is getting a lot of headway. NXT is getting a lot of headway, a lot of the young guys, but the mid-carders are just stuck in a certain spot. So they thought maybe a brand split would help. But Sean, kind of give us an idea of some of these other things you wanted to talk about.
Well, I mean, I'm the one that brought that up. I don't think they're even thinking about that at all. In fact, they gave them more money so that maybe they would be less unhappy. But, more money, more problems sometimes. Instead of appeasing. Now, granted, they don't have the star power that they had in 2002 when they started the brand extension, and then the star power started diminishing as the years went on, and they completely just made the brand extension some ridiculous thing. But they do certainly have the talent roster to do it if you maybe include bringing up a few more NXT talents, and you just, WWE's been saying they want to make SmackDown more important come January, okay, and with the talent being unhappy and WWE having problems really figuring out how to be able to use all this talent, even though they have so many hours of TV and other shows and whatever. Maybe you don't take it from a star power perspective, but you split the rosters because it forces you to have to use that talent that you don't necessarily use all the time. Because you're still doing both rosters on the different shows, even though there are still some guys that just don't show up on SmackDown at all, hardly. But do you think it could possibly work if, say, they don't do much crossover, if at all, and they just say, okay, here's the SmackDown team, here's the Raw team. You guys figure out who your main people are going to be, and you use them. And you give each show its own identity as it had in the past, and whatever. Is there a way a brand split can work again?
No. Very simply right now, I would say because of the problems that we're having creative. It's not the wrestlers' it's not so much their problem. It's how they're being presented. And having that across two different shows is only going to double the problems that they're going to have, in my opinion. Because now you're going to have to, you're going to have all these guys now that you have more TV time dedicated to, even though they have a ton of TV time. And they can't figure it out now, which is mind-boggling. But if you have it spread across two different shows, it's just going to make your problems more glaring, in my opinion. I don't see it working until they straighten up and tighten up whatever they got going on in creative right now, which is Vince. And that's not changing anytime soon.
Hey, you're exactly right. And that's what's so funny about this, because you've got Vince with his ideas and the thought processes that he goes through to make things happen. And a lot of times it's stuff that, could work, but doesn't always go through. And we've heard this, creative is said, and people who, get paid lots of money to do that and who write some great things are turned down. And so, you've got some situations where writers are saying, hey, we've had these great plans for certain guys, like let's name Rusev. We've got great plans for this guy. We've got, situations where we have Ryback. We've got Ryback going for the world title, but they don't go because Vince says no. So, we may not ever see some of the great things that we've envisioned because of that reason. So that leads you back to this brand split. I don't know that I'm sold on it. I don't think that cures all. I think that NXT needs to be left alone. The only time you need to be talking about NXT stars is when they're debuting, or they make an appearance in the Royal Rumble, or they have a NXT match on a Raw or something for a special occasion. Besides that, I don't think it needs to happen. They've got to leave these young kids alone. Let them develop their craft. Let them be who they are. Because if you start intermingling the worlds too much, the NXT roster is no longer as special as it once was. Because you can't have people squash them on SmackDown and expect them to be something great on NXT. It just can't work that way.
Well, that's not always true. We see them get beat up on Raw, and then on NXT they're other things. So
very rarely, though. Very rarely do you see NXT guys on that level that, aren't going.
Well, yeah, I mean, you still have, the Adam Roses of the world and whatever, and that's why they, like you said, they don't get taken seriously when they go back down, because look at the repair job they had to do on Emma, to where the fans kind of, sort of, and they still don't really react to her in the same way that when she was there the first time, before she got into the main roster. So, but that helped her find a different side of herself, and maybe she's better this way. They can't screw her up if she goes to the main roster now, because she's not that goofy character that you have to put into some comedy thing that Vince thinks is funny. I mean, to me, maybe I'm just looking at it in a certain way, but I just wonder if there's a lot of ifs, obviously, that you have to do. And, we know the reason why SmackDown was successful for a lot of that early part of its run is because Vince basically left SmackDown alone to let Paul Heyman do with what he wanted for the most part. And then we kind of tend to forget that once Paul Heyman left, that's when the whole draft and all that stuff started becoming ridiculous, and we started seeing a lot more intermingling, and eventually it just got to the point where it was almost no point of having a so-called brand extension, because they made Raw the show where there wasn't a brand extension, and SmackDown did, but I think if you kept all the things even, and you said, okay, well, this is my SmackDown team. I, Vince, am going to be ahead of the Raw team. That's the show that has more hours. It's the show that I have to plan for more, whatever. It obviously seems like now that they don't sit there and take a lot of time to plan SmackDown a lot. A lot of SmackDown winds up being, oh, we have this thing. Oh, there's this big match at the end, and then we just have a bunch of matches. A lot of times what SmackDown feels like. And so it doesn't feel like it's important, and if it has its own roster, however small or big it is or whatever, then perhaps you make it feel important because you can only watch those wrestlers on that station or that show, and it forces them to have to use them. I agree that it's going to show the problems in creative, but maybe Vince just says, hey, I don't have the time to do all this, and he does let SmackDown have its own thing. If SmackDown is left alone, do you think that it could possibly work? Where you have a different kind of idea, different feel to it than it not being Raw's replay?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those that'd be really hard to tell. Simply just because you don't know who's all going to be involved, you don't know what's going to go down over there, you don't know what would happen. And I guess there's some fun to be had there with that idea maybe, but you don't know what you're going to get. And I happen to think it may not be the best, but who knows?
To me, they have plenty of other ways they can make SmackDown better without, doing a brand extension. Not only that, bringing anything with NXT on it over. They can do just fine. They've got plenty of guys they can't even get on the roster because they just, don't have enough slots. So this is a great opportunity to do that. Focus on some storylines that don't get focused on, and maybe it make people interested in watching that show.
Yeah, or at least have storylines that go from Raw to SmackDown, and they do this sometimes, but it's very rare. Like, it's like with one wrestler or something. Like, if you want to, they did it with the Divas Revolution for a little while when it first started. They've done it with a couple of, with like Roman Reigns is going to wrestle this guy. Oh, watch SmackDown for that. It's like, well, there's another whole hour and a half of SmackDown that people need to watch. I mean, you're not advertising that either. I mean, you need to make those storylines feel like I'm watching this show on Thursday. Oh, well, now I need to go watch the show on Monday because it's going to continue over there. And, that's the problem when you don't have them act coherently with each other. So there's almost no point to watch this other show because none of it matters when you go watch the Monday show, Mm-hmm. It's just a thing that's there.
Right.
And you don't want that show to feel like a thing that's there.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah,
all right.
That's it.
All right, guys. Well, Sean, now you have a review for us, the WWE 2K16, which I know a lot of people are excited about playing, and some people kind of speculating on if it's going to be worth the purchase. So you let us know. What were your thoughts?
Well, certainly 2K16 is much better than 2K15. I mean, they had to really screw it up for it not to be, because 2K15 was what did you take out, of the 2K14 when they moved it over to the PS4 and Xbox One and whatever. To me, the big things for this one are the reversal system, which has been changed now. It's more almost like a fighting game where you have only a certain number of certain number of reversals. Kind of like when you only have a certain number of finishers. And you have to decide when it's important for you to reverse or when it's okay to let the computer or whoever you're playing against kind of get a couple moves on you, and then you go, okay, well that's enough. I'm going to have to hit R2 or hit whatever I guess it's still R2 on the Xbox One. I played the PS4 version. But it does kind of gradually continue over time, so you, depending on the wrestler, if you have a creative wrestler, it's going to be 3. If you use somebody like Stone Cold or Shawn Michaels or something, it's going to be 5. And they do gradually come back over time, so it's not something where, like, you have to do a billion zillion things to get a reversal again, a lot of times if you're kind of just going through the match, you don't even notice when you don't have a reversal. That's what it felt like to me. I know there's people that complain about it, and it's like, oh my god, I can't reverse, and I just can't stop the guy from hitting me, and it's just like, well, you're not doing this smart enough then. You're not really trying to be in the strategy of the game, I thought. I think it just adds a lot more strategy to it. I think you actually have to think about what you're doing now. I think it adds more to that chain wrestling thing that happens at the beginning of the game. Now, it's a lot more fluid to me. The other thing that I particularly thought was more intuitive is now the pinning system is way better than it has been. The last 2 years you've heard me complain about the stupid pin game that they had before. It's so dumb. This time they actually made it to where all you're doing is the thing gets smaller and smaller as there's more damage on the other wrestler because it's a stamina system. So when it just winds up, it's like a wind-up machine. So it is, it winds and you have this little small part where you have to get it right on or it's not going to give you the kick out. So, and depending on, again, which wrestler and how much resiliency he has or whatever, you'll have a better, like a bigger thing, bigger slice of the pie to be able to kick out or whatnot. So, I thought that's way more intuitive than it's been in the past. The one thing that kind of sucks is the submission system. They made it more like the UFC game where you have 2 bars of different colors and they chase each other around. And if you're the guy that's doing the submission, well, you're the red and the other guy is blue. And if the red one gets a hold of the blue one for too long, he's going to submit. And it's like sometimes it's almost impossible to get away from the other one. And it's like, especially with a computer, it's like you end up getting yourself stuck and you can't get out of it. And it's like, okay, this is ridiculous. I don't know how many times I had to redo something on 2K Showcase mode because I got to the end, I was beating the guy, and then all of a sudden, like, Bret Hart would come and do the sharpshooter. I had no damage on my legs, and I submitted. I'm like, oh, give me a break. Like, I don't want to redo all these stupid little things to get to that part of the match again. It's just like, it was a pain. So that was to me like the only new feature that really, really bothered me. Everything else is if you played 13, WWE 13, the showcase mode is going to be really similar for you. A lot of the stuff at the beginning is the same. You're going through Stone Cold's, career, so you're gonna see a lot of that same stuff. Now, when you get to the latter stuff that wasn't in the Attitude Era mode, then that's where you have a lot more fun there. The career mode is longer now, so you have a lot more to play around with. You spend a lot more time in NXT at the beginning, and now you actually have to go through a ranking system with the titles. And you get into rivalries, and you can interrupt matches, and you can basically pick your own tag team partner by supporting them in matches and stuff. I mean, it's good stuff. I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. I rented it, so I didn't get too invested because I don't own the game, and I knew I'd have to take it back eventually. The universe mode is kind of what it is. You have more rivalries now. You have more things you can do now, so that there's a create a show now for it, so you can actually create an entire show, and it's a lot more going on there. They bring back all the creative modes except for the creative story and the creative move, so if you're missing those are still out, but other than that, all the create modes are back. The only thing is the online still sucks, so if you're one of those that you have to play online, I recommend you don't buy the game, because the server is down half the time, and even if it does work, you still have to get into a private match to actually be able to play against your friend. There's no online matchmaking, there's no lobby, there's none of that, which is stupid. We're in 2015, people. Why is this so hard? I don't understand why this is so hard for 2K and Ukes and all these people to do. This is not 2009, we're playing on the PS2. This is one of those things I do not understand why in 2015 your servers are going down constantly for this game that people are going to play online. That people are going to want to go trade their cause online, because that's all they do with the creative wrestlers now, is they put it online so you can go get it and download it and rate it and all that stuff. This is the kind of stuff that I don't understand. But overall, the game is better. It's much better. It's well worth a $60 purchase to me. I think if you're one of those that you play everything and anything in the WWE games, then there's plenty of stuff. It's not like to the point where it's overflowing with stuff, as it has been in the past, where it's like, oh my god, there's just so much stuff right now. But I think it's getting there. I think maybe next year we'll get to that point. The roster is huge. Obviously 120 wrestlers. That doesn't include the multiple different versions of all the people in the Attitude Era modes, or the showcase mode that you'll get by unlocking that. So there's tons and tons of wrestlers to choose from there. The models don't look that great, but it's Ukes, so they've been sucking with the models for I don't know how long on that game. If you're buying this game for graphics, you're buying the wrong game. Just telling you right now. Don't buy the game for graphics. I mean, it looks fine, but they don't look, Renee Young, I feel so bad for Renee Young. She looks so bad. Just terrible. And they do some of the, if you played NBA 2K, when you go through the career mode in NBA 2K, after every game you have a press conference, you're asked questions. Well, same thing with the career mode here. You're asked questions about your rivalry, what you thought about the match, whatever. And some of them get really, really old, really, really fast. So I don't know if they can patch that in, or if they can add more stuff, or maybe at 2K17 they're going to have to add that in. But you're going to have to add way more variety. If you're going to do that after every single match that you have in career mode, you're going to have to add way more variety. Either that or you're going to have to sprinkle in the times where you do that. So, I think overall, it's missing some things still, but much better game. I think a lot of the guys on our group are really enjoying it. There's one of them that just doesn't like anything in the game, which I don't understand. But I will say this again. If you played the crap out of WWE 13 and you kind of got your Attitude Era fill and you're really only looking to play it for the Stone Cold mode, that's where I would kind of go to Redbox and just keep it for a couple of days. You beat the Showcase mode, you take it back. If you're into everything that's in the game, I think $60, you're not going wrong if you buy that game.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you, Sean, for kind of filling us in and telling us what you thought about the game and some of the details. I'm excited about playing it myself. I don't know how soon that'll be because I don't have a PS4, but I know for those that do have PS4 or Xbox One, this is a game to have. It is going to be a lot of fun, trust me, so go check that out. So anyway. All right, guys. Well, we got 2 more shows to talk about. So I think the first one we got up on the docket is going to be Ring of Honor, and then after that we'll be doing some TNA, and then we'll round this thing out with crowning our Superstar of the Week. So, but right now it is time to head over and do some ROH. Go ahead, Paul.
Paul?
Oops. We got Paul?
I don't know if his thing's on mute again, or did he fall asleep while I was doing... Paul.
Maybe he did pass out. He possibly could have fell asleep.
Yep, well...
You got the card in front of you, Sean?
Yeah, I got it in front of me, so... Yeah, so it was a 3-match show, as most ROH shows are. They started by addressing the whole thing with Steve Corino from last week, where... basically, Steve Corino got involved, and then he's going to face punishment. Now, apparently Steve Corino's going to have spinal fusion surgery, so he's not going to be having this match that they're... they didn't say this on the show, but it's been said on the internet, and looks like this match will wind up not happening, even though they built a lot of stuff into the storyline. And that makes me kind of sad, because the storyline's actually been really interesting. To me, anyway. I've liked it when you get to see Corino get involved. But that being said, the first match was out of a Dijak with Truth Martini out there against Moose and Stokely Hathaway. You know what? It's kind of a spectacle match. I think it was the Field of Honor show. We saw them kind of go at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they had a pretty decent match there. We see Moose do a lot of his athletic stuff, and he did the spear. And these two guys are, some of the best young talent that ROH has, and I think they showed it here.
No, I totally agree. I think that they just really gave themselves a chance to give people an idea who they are, and I enjoyed this match for the most part. I mean, we've seen these guys in battle before, but I mean, they continually get better. I think for the most part, though, I mean, it's something that I think eventually will give us a lot more happiness. Right now, this is good, but it's not, exactly the best. But I did enjoy it.
Alright, well, we went from there to Cedric Alexander with Veda Scott coming out there, and Dalton Castle without his voice. Obviously, yes, it was. It's always depressing to not see Dalton Castle. As Dalton Castle comes out only wearing a shirt, and basically letting you know he's not the same guy without his voice. So he pretty much attacked Alexander, and then pretty much Dalton was kind of just aggressive the whole time.
Yeah.
What'd you like about this? Yeah.
I did. That's exactly what I liked, is that Dalton aggressive. I mean, that was what was so fun about it, because you could tell he had a temper. He was angry. His whole situation is kind of, flip-flops. And so I think now he's, just paying it forward about making everybody else suffer. So, but no, I mean, that was a kind of a surprise to me, because I wasn't sure, how they were going to have this happen. Was Dalton going to be, taking the loss here, or was he going to get the victory? And with Dalton doing so well, I was very happy, but I was surprised because, Alexander's got his thing going right now, so that's why I was a little bit surprised.
Well, speaking of surprising, we find out here with Jay Lethal and Truth Martini talking that the roles have been reversed a bit on Mr. Jay Lethal. He's been going against Roderick Strong, and then he finds out that Roderick Strong's now going after the TV title as AJ Styles is going to be the one going after the number 1 contender spot. So,
yeah, that is going to be kind of cool to see, how the whole AJ thing works out. But this, man, I love the way this kind of unfolded. I'm not a big fan of things kind of getting drawn out, but I'll say this, no matter if Nigel's involved or not, because sometimes Nigel kind of he kind of drags you through it. It was okay in this one, and getting a chance for them to say, hey, you may not get a chance at the world title, you've kind of lost that, but now you get a chance to face him for this other title. I mean, the TV title, it's been so important to Jay Lethal, it's almost as bad, so I like that. I like that they have that mix up, and I think it's going to make the show better when they get to it.
And it's a way to do the rematch and not for the world title. So.
Exactly.
So they ended the show with the Michael Hogan and Red Dragon match versus the Kingdom that was pretty much announced last week. And then, Adam Cole pretty much attacked. And, it looks like we're heading into an O'Reilly and Cole thing. But we're going to get Cole and AJ Styles next week. And before we went off the show, they announced that, hey, he doesn't want to take AJ Styles out of the match, but he can sure add Kyle O'Reilly to the match. So, my God, Adam Cole, baby, AJ Styles and Kyle O'Reilly in one match together. Woof. Talk about scintillating.
Yeah, that is going to be a blast. I cannot wait to see that. Oh, man, but this is exactly why we like watching Ring of Honor. These things like, this happening, so.
I should also mention the Faces won match, I forgot.
Yes, they did. But, I mean, overall, let's just say this, it was pretty good, the end of this, and you got a chance to get the storyline to kind of go further. They're building, and I like where they're going in it, so. But, that wraps up Ring of Honor for everybody. And we'll definitely cover more. Just to let everybody know, we did lose Paul somewhere on connection-wise, so sadly, I'm not sure. It just depends on if he's able to connect back with us if, he's going to finish the show tonight. But, because he usually does this segment for us, so Sean is filling in. But now, Sean, it is time for us to move on, and hopefully we'll get Paul back. We got TNA Impact next. Let's go ahead and talk that.
I think it's not bad to say that it's 5 a.m. and Paul fell asleep.
Well, you never know. He may or may not have. You just never know. I don't want to say one and it's the other. You never know. But yeah, I think that's probably what happened.
Yeah.
And hey, I can't say a word.
And I wouldn't blame him, It is TNA that we're about to talk about here.
Exactly. So. And you know what? It's happened to me on our sports show. Last segment of the show, my body couldn't hold it. I went to sleep. So.
It's kind of like, he knew I was going to talk for a while, and he's like, oh, I'm going to take a little siesta here, and oops.
Yeah. He'll do like me, wake up and find out that, oh, wait, everybody's gone.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, so it's okay.
So, here we go, more World Title Series. Basically, Matt Hardy against Robbie E. Drew Galloway against Grado in the Europeans match. Aiden O'Shea against Crazy Steve. You knew that was going to suck. James Storm taking on Abyss. Yeah. DJ Z beating Tigre Uno. And Gail Kim beat Awesome Kong. So.
The biggest surprise was DJ Z. I think the rest of these, we kind of could have called them, to be honest with you. And that's not saying they're just terrible, but really you kind of felt like you could probably walk into this and call them, except the DJZ. That one was kind of out of left field. But happy to see it. I like the guy, and I think he does a good job. So I'm glad that he did win a matchup here. But, overall, we've talked about this before with Paul, and Paul made a great point. I want to kind of piggyback on that again. Without a lot of storylines in between these tournaments, it's just not as fun. This tournament in general is good for what it's worth, but with the storylines not being a big focus, it is kind of a different animal. They did a better job, though, of interviewing wrestlers. I enjoyed that. You got EC3 talking and explaining his situation, and there's a few other ones that they did that with. So I think that was a solid job, besides the fact that this show didn't have a lot of fluff. And entertainment-wise, it was more about the matches than it was about their talking ability.
Yeah, I mean, that's what this tournament is. It's a matches, in World Cup style. And I again want to applaud them for coming up with something a bit different and rolling with it, as wacky as it seemed. And, the women had a great main event match there at the end. So that's also, awesome Kong, Gail Kim, you can't go wrong with that. Best women's feud in TNA history for sure. So, yeah, looks like Drew Galloway is leading the way in the Group UK with 6 points. Rockstar Spud's got 3. Brad and Grado both have not won. Brooke and Awesome Kong and Gail Kim are all tied at 3 in the Knockouts group. Then you've got Austin Aries, EC3, and Lashley with 4 apiece, and then Lashley has 3 right behind Austin Aries and EC3, and Mr. Anderson has 0. Mahabali Shera in the wildcard group has 3. Kenny King and Aiden O'Shea all have 3, and then Crazy Steve has nothing. The TNA Originals group, James Storm Abyss and Bobby Roode have all 3, and Eric Young has 0. Matt Hardy has 6, Robbie E has 3, and Eddie and Davey Richards both have 0. Jesse Goddard has 3, Eli and Micah have 1 as they drew, and Crimson has 0. And then Manic, Tigre Uno, and DJZ all have 3, and Mandrews has 0 in the X Division group. So that's your final standings there, or that's not your final standings, but that's your standings for this week. And yeah, I mean, that's TNA pretty much there.
Yeah, exactly. And really, just right now with that giant storylines, it's kind of a recap, give you guys kind of an idea where everybody is points wise and match wise. So I think we kind of covered it, though. There's not much more to it, honestly. But now, Sean, it is time for us to do what is one of the things we love to do and pretty important for us here at Wrestling to the Max. We want to crown a superstar of the week. So it looks like, if Paul's unavailable, me and you are going to have to do it this week. So, Sean, let's get to do it.
Alrighty.
All right, Sean. Well, go ahead and give me your top 5 for this week.
Well, Hell in a Cell counts. And so does Raw. And, of course, even though we didn't talk about it on this show, there's still that New Japan Super Juniors tag tournament going on, as they're going to do the final match at Power Struggle, which we'll be talking about next Sunday in a W2M special, as that show is actually on Saturday morning, and then we'll be talking about it on Sunday night. Maybe Tom will be with us this time. I don't know. Last time he wasn't able to be there, but we will be doing a preview next week for the show on Thursday. So we are coming out on Monday morning, but don't worry, we're still having the next show on Friday as long as no internet issues. So we will have an episode 168 where we will preview Power Struggle and obviously talk about all the other shows that we normally talk about and whatever else is going on in wrestling. But yeah, so I'm going to give a 5th spot to Roppongi Vice and Seidel and Ricochet for continuing on, and they're going to meet in the final at Power Struggle to see who's the number 1 contender for the the junior tag titles that are currently held by Red Dragon. So then number 4 would be Charlotte for defending her Divas title. Number 3, I'm going to give to Seth Rollins for defending his title. Number 2, I'm going to give to Alberto Del Rio for winning the U.S. title and then have a pretty good match with Neville on Raw. And number 1, Roman Reigns, number 1 contender, had a terrific match with Kofi Kingston on Raw, and then in that fatal 4-way, he was obviously started to shine and won. So, there you go.
All right, fair enough. Well, for me personally, it looks like that I got number 5 being Charlotte. Great jobs retaining her women's title. 4 for me is Gable and Jordan. Wow, those guys put on a great match in NXT this week. I thoroughly enjoyed it, so you got to give them credit. Number 3 has to be Rollins for me. That's right, Seth Rollins. He did retain his title. Not the best match I've seen of his, definitely against Kane, but I just got to give him some credit and some props for retaining his title. Number 2 for me is actually a little flipped off here, other than Sean. I had Roman Reigns here. I think he did a great job, number 1 contender. I put Del Rio as number 1 because I thought it was a great surprise. Not only that, he did win the U.S. title doing it, so I gave him lots and lots of credit. That's what sucks is Paul's not here to be the tiebreaker right now, but you know what? I think I'm going to do it myself. I think Sean's got something here. Roman Reigns definitely being the number 1 contender for that title. It matters a lot more. The U.S. title is great, but man, the world title is a big focus. So Roman Reigns, I think, will be our superstar of the week this week, guys. And I'm excited about it. Congratulations to him, and we'll have to see, on the road to WrestleMania how this all shakes out. But Sean kind of give you a few ideas of what's going to be happening this next week on our show. Lots of cool things. You don't want to miss it. Hopefully, barring any technical issues, we'll be back on, live Thursday night and on demand Friday for all you who listen on demand. Plus, Sean and I will be doing a sports show, F2F, coming up Monday night. If you're listening to this on Monday, you'll get the chance to hear us that Monday night talking about the weekend games and how everything worked out this weekend in football and the NFL. And of course, we also do a Rabble if you get a chance to hear that. It's really cool. So, but besides that, Sean, anything else you want to let everybody know about?
Yeah, because of the technical issues with the internet first it was just because we just couldn't find a time that worked, and then the internet issue started, and so we didn't have a co-op multi this week. We also didn't have a Week 8 preview podcast either. So, yeah. We're up to that. We just got to the point where it was Saturday. We weren't going to do anything, and at that point, why? It's Sunday morning. There's already a game at 9:30. It's pointless. So, I did do 2 Rabble games, the Cowboys and Seahawks, and then Packers and Broncos for Sunday night. So, I'll have plenty to say about those, and of course all the other games that between Randy and I that we have to cover and. Yeah, so hopefully everything should get back to schedule. Hopefully. Starting with tomorrow and then, later today, whatever. And then on with the rest of the week. So hopefully when we're looking at you square in the face on Friday morning where we normally are, and you see it right there in your feed, where you can go subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher and TuneIn and wherever else you listen to podcasts.
Oh, definitely. So, once again, we're glad to be here with you guys, and we thank you for showing up and listening to this, even though it is late. Next week, we'll be seeing you guys on Thursday, and hopefully, enjoying the rest of your week. So, we'll talk to you then. And one last thing, always remember, if you're not living life to the max,
you're not living life at all.
You know it.
Peace.